Rome was not built in a day. You must have heard this saying. Rome's world dominance ended centuries ago, but its culture is still influential today. Its philosophy, its language, its architecture are still popular around the world. It was the superpower that, for the first time in history, laid the foundation of a modern army, that created the Senate system to run the empire for the first time, which successfully ran democracy for nearly 5 centuries during its Republican period. So many modern political terms like republic, dictators, Senate, and veto are taken from Roman politics. At the peak of the empire, its population was so high that every 5th person in the world was a Roman. If we combine the periods of the Roman kingdom, republic, and empire, Rome's dominance lasted for more than 2,000 years. How is this possible? And then, how and why did this superpower fall? Let's find out in today's video. There are many mythological stories about the founding of Rome. According to one tale, there were twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, who were abandoned in a river as babies because they were the illegitimate sons of the god of war, Mars. But somehow the children ended up in a forest where a she-wolf found them and raised them as her own. Then, together, they established a settlement near the Tiber River. However, after some time, a fight broke out between them over control of the city, in which Remus was killed, and then Romulus named the city Rome. There are 2 or 3 other such mythological stories about Rome's founding, but according to modern research, these were all created by Roman historians of the time to give their kingdom a legendary origin story. To understand Rome's real beginning, we analyzed modern research and saw that according to some archaeological records, Rome was established around 625 BC. Initially, it was a small trading center on the banks of the Tiber River, which gradually turned into a city. At that time, this region was called Etruria and Latium. People lived in small villages and probably united to protect themselves from invasions, which marked the beginning of Rome. The period from 600 BC to 510 BC is considered Rome's period of kings. Interestingly, at that time, the decision to become king was not made on a hereditary basis. Kings were elected by a ruling body called the Senate. During this period, a total of 7 kings ruled Rome. The last king on this list was Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, also known as Tarquin the Proud. According to historians, he was a tyrant, and then an incident occurred that changed the entire history of Rome. An accusation was made against Lucius Superbus's son that he had assaulted a noblewoman, Lucretia. This news spread like wildfire in Rome, and protests against Lucius Superbus began everywhere. Finally, the people and nobles together removed Superbus from power. And with this, in 509 BC, the Republican period of Rome began. A government called the Senate was now established in Rome. The Senate was divided into 2 sections. One section was called the patricians, whose members came from rich and powerful families, and the second section was the plebeians, which consisted mostly of representatives from the middle class. The patricians and plebeians together elected 2 leaders called consuls. Usually, most of the power lay with the patricians, and they often misused it. Because of this, conflict with the plebeians was seen many times. During the Republican period, Rome expanded significantly. By 338 BC, Rome's territory had spread across the entire Italian peninsula. Several conflicts were seen during this expansion. For example, in 390 BC, the neighboring kingdom of the Gauls attacked Rome and caused great devastation. But Rome rebuilt itself. After this, under the leadership of military leader Camillus, Rome captured all of present-day Italy. From 264 BC to 146 BC, Rome once again went to war. This period is called the Punic Wars. These wars were fought between Rome and Carthage. Carthage was a very powerful city-state on the northern coast of Africa, located in the region around present-day Tunisia. A total of 3 Punic Wars were fought. After the first 2 wars, Rome took control of the western Mediterranean, which included Spain and the island of Sicily.
During this time, Rome also defeated Carthage's legendary general and military tactician, Hannibal. Hannibal's story is so interesting that a separate video could be made on it. The Third Punic War was fought between 149 and 146 BC, in which Rome defeated Carthage very badly. After winning the war, Rome first looted Carthage extensively, then it burned and destroyed the entire city. The Greek historian Appian writes in his book that in the Third Punic War, about 200,000 Carthaginians died, and the 50,000 who survived were enslaved.
After this, Rome began its expansion to the east. First, it defeated the Macedonian kingdom, which was still a mighty kingdom 200 years after Alexander the Great's death. Rome's military victories gave it not only new territories and gold, but also had a deep impact on Roman culture and society from the conquered states' cultures. If you ever visit any Italian city, you'll see that Rome integrated many aspects of Greek architecture, religion, and art into its society. The writings of Greek philosophers greatly influenced Roman thinking and philosophy. By 100 BC, military power and territorial expansion had made Rome a superpower. But as Rome grew, its negative impacts also began to show. For example, political instability increased and civil wars began. Leaders who spoke for the poor were assassinated. After that, other leaders became afraid to help the poor. Some leaders also adopted violent methods for political change, but they too were killed. After this, the Republic became very unstable, and civil wars began again. In such situations, dictatorial leaders often take advantage. Something similar happened here, and Rome got its greatest dictator. The year was 58 BC. Rome appointed Julius Caesar as governor of a province in Italy and gave him the responsibility to quickly bring the remaining regions of Gaul under its control. Gaul was a Celtic tribe that comprised present-day France, Belgium, Switzerland, and parts of Germany. But conquering Gaul was not going to be easy for Caesar because the Gauls were an independent tribe and were not at all willing to be under anyone's rule. So they chose Vercingetorix as their leader and prepared for war against Caesar. This war is called the Gallic Wars, which started in 58 BC and continued for the next 6 years. In 52 BC, Caesar besieged Alesia, a major city of Gaul, for months. This caused the Gauls to starve, and those who remained were attacked and killed. After winning this battle, it could be said that Caesar won the war. Biographer Plutarch writes that in this war, Caesar and his army fought against 3 million Gauls, killed 1 million of them, and enslaved another million. The conquest of Gaul made Caesar very popular in Rome. His growing popularity and power began to create insecurity in the Senate. For this reason, the Senate ordered Caesar to end his military conquests and return from Gaul. And in response, what Caesar did was going to change the entire history of the Roman Empire. Caesar refused to obey the Senate's orders. After this, Caesar formed an alliance with 2 other Roman generals, Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, or Pompey, and Marcus Licinius Crassus, known as the First Triumvirate. Interestingly, Pompey was Caesar's son-in-law. The triumvirate's popularity grew so much in Rome that these 3 together began to control Rome's politics and narrative. For some time, everything was going according to plan for Caesar. But then, as with every political alliance, problems began in the triumvirate. First, seeing Caesar's growing popularity, Crassus wanted to do something so that his popularity would equal Caesar's. In this quest, in 53 BC, Crassus started a military campaign against the Parthian Empire, but he lost that battle and died. Some sources also say that Crassus was captured and had molten gold poured into his mouth. After Crassus's death, a power struggle began between Caesar and Pompey. To defeat Caesar, Pompey joined hands with the Roman Senate, and in return, the Senate got a face to rival Caesar's growing popularity. In 49 BC, despite the Senate's warnings, Caesar marched towards Rome with his army and crossed the Rubicon River. Basically, Caesar wanted to show his power. This extreme action led to Caesar's civil war against the Senate and Pompey, known as Caesar's Civil War. This war continued for a year, and ultimately, in 48 BC, Caesar's forces defeated Pompey's army at the Battle of Pharsalus. After this, Pompey had to flee to Egypt, where King Ptolemy had him treacherously killed to gain Caesar's support. With this, full control of Rome now came into Caesar's hands. Seizing the opportunity, Caesar declared himself dictator of Rome for life. Caesar's dictatorship over Rome lasted from 49 BC to 44 BC. During these 5 years of Caesar's rule, Rome also developed greatly. He introduced many reforms that benefited poor people as well. Public works projects like roads and buildings further increased Caesar's popularity. People began to feel that Caesar had come as a messiah for them. He began to be followed like a demigod. Although the Senate had officially accepted Caesar as dictator, some people in the Senate were against it and wanted to remove the dictatorship from Rome and restore the republic. Among them were Caesar's close associates Gaius Cassius Longinus and Marcus Junius Brutus, who felt that Caesar was misusing his powers. Eventually, these two, along with some other senators, planned to assassinate Caesar. On March 15, 44 BC, the Ides of March, a Senate meeting was being held, which Caesar also attended. Some senators surrounded Caesar under the pretext of showing him a petition and suddenly began attacking him with daggers. After this, Caesar was stabbed 23 times in succession. During the attack, Caesar's gaze fell upon Brutus, whom he considered like a son. Whereupon Caesar said, "Et tu, Brute," "You too, Brutus?" which are considered his last words. The assassins thought they would kill Caesar and take power into their own hands. But Caesar's popularity was so great that all the citizens of Rome stood against the Senate. Caesar's death plunged Rome into civil war once again. Here enters Caesar's grandnephew, Octavian, whom Caesar had officially adopted. Octavian formed the second triumvirate with Caesar's close friend Antony and Lepidus and declared war on the Senate. In 42 BC, at the Battle of Philippi, the three defeated the Senate and gained power. After this, control of the Western Roman Empire was given to Octavian. Antony controlled the East, and Lepidus was given North Africa. But later, Octavian sidelined Lepidus and took all control into his own hands. For some years, Octavian and Mark Antony jointly ruled Rome. But this alliance could not last long. When Mark Antony was ruling the Eastern Roman Empire, he became friends with Cleopatra, and soon the two fell in love. Interestingly, at one time, Cleopatra had an affair with Caesar, and the two had a son. Hearing this, Octavian began to feel that Mark Antony was now planning to increase his power by forming other alliances. After this, trust issues began between the two, and Octavian started propaganda against Mark Antony, saying that Mark Antony now wanted to make Cleopatra the Queen of Rome, that he had forgotten Roman principles, and eventually declared him a traitor. In response, Mark Antony questioned Octavian's legitimacy and said that he had no claim on Rome because he was not Caesar's real son. After this, war broke out between the two, and after many battles, the Battle of Actium took place in 31 BC. In it, Octavian's naval forces defeated Antony and Cleopatra's fleet, after which both fled to Egypt. But Octavian did not leave them there either and sent his army to besiege them for a year. Then, in 30 BC, Antony and Cleopatra surrendered, and both committed suicide. After this, Octavian was declared Rome's first emperor, and he took the name Augustus, and with this began the Roman Empire. Augustus's rule lasted 41 years, and this period is called Pax Romana, or Roman peace.
Before Augustus, there was always some war or political instability going on in Rome, and people were tired of it. For this reason, people greatly appreciated Augustus's stable rule. Augustus was a very capable emperor. He stopped conflicts within his empire, introduced many progressive laws, and also focused on architecture. These decisions distinguish Augustus from other Roman emperors, because when we read history, we see that most Roman emperors were decadent and not interested in ruling. In 14 AD, at the age of 75, Augustus died of natural causes. After Augustus's death, he began to be considered a god, and this belief continued until the end of the Roman Empire. Even the month of August is named after Augustus. After Augustus, his adopted son Tiberius ruled for 22 years. Tiberius's rule was the era when Jesus Christ was crucified. After Tiberius's death, it was the turn of his adopted son Caligula to become emperor, who is known as a mad and cruel emperor. Caligula would have many innocent people killed on charges of conspiracy. The entire Senate was angry at this madness. Caligula's rule continued like this for 3 years, and then one day in 41 AD, when Caligula was going through an underground passage for his lunch, 2 guards murdered him, although it was never discovered who ordered it. After Caligula's death, his uncle Claudius was declared emperor. Claudius's rule lasted 13 years. It is said that Claudius was very fond of food and spent most of his time in debauchery. He had several wives, one of whom was Agrippina, who poisoned him to death and made her illegitimate son Nero the emperor. Nero's rule is seen as one of the biggest stains on the Roman Empire. After becoming emperor at the age of 16 in 54 AD, Nero did things that shocked people. Nero first killed his own mother because she began to control him too much. After this, he emptied the treasury with wasteful expenditures, causing a severe financial crisis in the kingdom, and anyone who questioned this action was killed. Biographer Suetonius writes of Nero that he committed all kinds of evil deeds, such as incest, animal cruelty, and killing people for no reason. Then, one day, allegedly, Nero set fire to all of Rome and blamed it on the Christians, because at that time, Christianity was seen as a threat to the Roman Empire. Anyway, from this fire incident comes a famous quote that people still use for dictators: "Nero fiddled while Rome burned." However, there is no proper evidence or source that Nero did this. Besides, the fiddle wasn't invented until about 1,000 years after Nero's death, so it's hard to believe this story. It's also possible that Nero's enemies manufactured this story to defame him. Whatever the case, at that time there was a fire in Rome. There is evidence of that. And after this incident, the patience of Rome's leaders was now completely exhausted.
Seizing the opportunity, the governor of Spain, Servius Sulpicius Galba, challenged Nero for the throne. Seeing the growing support for Galba, Nero understood that his rule was about to end. To save his life, he had to flee Rome, after which the Senate declared Nero an enemy of the state. To avoid the shame of capture and public execution, Nero took his own life at the age of 30. Since Nero had no official heir, the Julio-Claudian dynasty, which had continued since the time of his great-great-grandfather Augustus, ended with Nero. After Nero's death, the next year became known as the Year of the Four Emperors. The year was 69 AD. With the backing of the Senate, Galba was chosen as emperor. If seen, Galba did no less wrong. Galba stopped payments to the Roman army for some time to benefit his corrupt friends. Because of this, revolts began again in the army. The Roman legions of Lower Germany declared their general, Aulus Vitellius, as emperor. But before another civil war could start, Galba's own Praetorian guards, his bodyguards, killed Galba. This was the second time an emperor's bodyguards assassinated their own emperor. General Aulus Vitellius was a strong contender to become emperor, but the Senate made its own senator Otho emperor because he was quite influential in the Senate.
Interestingly, Otho used to be a supporter of Galba, but later turned against him. Otho had the image of a peaceful and good leader. As soon as he ascended the throne, he faced a big challenge of dealing with Vitellius and his military. Otho wanted a peaceful settlement, but Vitellius was neither interested in peace, nor was he going to give up his ambition to become emperor. Then a long battle ensued between their armies, but Otho's army faced a crushing defeat at the Battle of Bedriacum. The Roman historian and senator Cassius Dio wrote that on that day, 40,000 Roman soldiers died on the battlefield. When Otho learned of this, he called off the fight from his side. Historians believe that if he had continued, he could have won, but Otho did not want to endanger his soldiers' lives, and then he could not bear the shock of thousands of soldiers' deaths, so he committed suicide. It is quite unfortunate that Otho's rule lasted only 3 months, because if he had been given a chance, he could have been a very sensitive and good emperor. Where most Roman emperors were narcissistic and greedy, Otho's name is always mentioned as an honest emperor. After Otho's death, Vitellius arrived in Rome with his army, and his soldiers first killed and looted the people of Rome and did not spare the women either. And then the Senate surrendered and declared Vitellius emperor. Vitellius could be called a sociopath. He declared himself the supreme leader and began to rule like a dictator. Oppression against common people increased, and it seemed that Rome had entered a dark age. Now Rome needed a savior, and it was about to get one soon. A part of the Roman army suddenly started a revolt and declared their commander, Titus Flavius Vespasian, as emperor. Then a long war ensued, and finally Vespasian's army entered Rome. When Vitellius realized he was losing the war, he tried to hide and escape the city. But some people caught him and dragged him before the people of Rome, where people began to spit on him. Then he was brutally tortured and killed, and his body was thrown into the river. On December 22, 69 A.D., the Senate declared Vespasian emperor. This was the end of a long period of Roman turmoil and the beginning of a new, peaceful, and prosperous Roman Empire known as the Flavian dynasty.
During Vespasian's rule, the construction of the Colosseum began, which is still one of the world's biggest tourist attractions. Vespasian was an intelligent and good politician. He restored law and order and took care of both Rome's elite class and common citizens. He completely restored the Senate's power and enacted many reforms focused on public welfare. Vespasian's rule lasted about 10 years, and after his death, his son Titus became emperor, who was the first biological son of any Roman emperor to succeed his father. After Titus, his brother Domitian became emperor, but was assassinated. After this, the period from 96 to 192 AD is called the era of the 5 good emperors. During this period, Trajan was considered by his people to be the best emperor. It was during this time that Rome became a city of 1 million people, and the empire's area reached the highest number in its history. Rome connected new regions through roads. This system still defines Europe's transport map. After Trajan's rule, Emperor Hadrian strengthened defenses. He built large forts in Britain and built the Pantheon in Rome. Inside the Pantheon, Hadrian also had paintings made of his lover, Antinous, which can still be seen today. The last of the good emperors, the philosopher Marcus Aurelius, spent most of his time on military conquests. Between battles, he wrote his Stoic philosophy manifesto, Meditations. After Marcus Aurelius, under his son Commodus, the Pax Romana finally ended. Commodus liked gladiator fights more than his work. Eventually, some of Commodus's enemies had him assassinated by a fighter and slave named Narcissus, who strangled him. After this, Rome was plunged into chaos again.
For the next 100 years, the Roman Empire remained very unstable. During this period, more than 25 emperors came, and almost all of them were assassinated. Once, the Praetorian Guard even killed the emperor and put the next emperor's post up for auction. There were also some emperors whose rule lasted only a few days or weeks. The exact duration of some reigns is still uncertain, but the record for the shortest reign is held by Gordian II, which was about 22 days. In 285 AD, Diocletian, who was the emperor at that time, divided the Roman Empire into western and eastern parts to manage it properly. Then he created a system where one emperor ruled the west and the other the east, and both were called by the title Augustus. Under these two, there was one deputy emperor each, who received the title Caesar. Therefore, this period was named the Tetrarchy.
Then in 305 AD, Diocletian did a very rare thing. He voluntarily gave up the throne, becoming the first Roman emperor to do so. After this, Diocletian's co-ruler and the emperor of the Western Empire, Maximilian, also retired. After this, Constantine, the son of the Western Empire's Caesar, was appointed emperor of the Western Empire, and he was given the title of both Augustus and Caesar. But Maximilian's son Maxentius demanded that he be given the title of Caesar. After this, war broke out between Constantine and Maxentius. It is believed that before the war, Constantine saw a cross in the sky and felt it was a sign from God that by adopting it he could win. Then he had the cross painted on his flags and army banners. Constantine won this war, and Maxentius was killed. After winning the war, Constantine accepted Christianity and made it the official religion of his empire. Constantine's rule lasted until 337 AD, and after his death there was a power struggle among his three sons. But none could hold the throne. After this, in 363 AD, the Valentinian dynasty came, which was marked by power struggles, assassinations, and unstable rule. In 392 AD, after the death of Western Emperor Valentinian II, Eastern Emperor Theodosius I reunited both empires. But this united Roman Empire did not last long. A few years after Theodosius's death, the final division of Rome occurred between his two sons, Arcadius and Honorius. Under Arcadius was the East, which later became the Byzantine Empire, and under Honorius was the West, which was about to end very soon. Gradually, the Greek-speaking Byzantine Empire became rich, while the Latin-speaking Western Empire fell into economic crisis. The Byzantine Empire's wealth strengthened its fortifications. When invaders saw the strength of Constantinople and the weakness of Rome, they found it easier to attack the West. During this time, a Germanic tribe, the Goths, repeatedly attacked the Western Roman Empire. Another tribe, the Vandals, burned everything to ashes in 455 AD. By 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire was completely destroyed. Perhaps it was an interesting fact that the last emperor of Rome was named Romulus, which was also the name of Rome's first emperor. After losing to a Germanic general Odoacer, Romulus was sent into exile, and he spent the rest of his days in exile. And thus ended the Roman Empire. If you liked this video, please do like, share, and subscribe. Making such videos requires a lot of effort and time. Therefore, your support is very important for our motivation. And before you go, please tell us in the comment section which historical topics you would like to see videos on next. See you soon with another history documentary.